I'm Mark Bruner on Senator Warner's staff, and I'd like to introduce the moderator for the first panel. We're lucky today to have Nikki Rovner, the Deputy Secretary of Natural Resources for the state of Virginia. Nikki was appointed by Governor Tim Kaine in 2006. Prior to that, she was Director of Government Relations at the Nature Conservancy, where she worked to advance the group's mission of biodiversity conservation. Before that, Nikki spent 6 years as a staff attorney with the Virginia Division of Legislative Services, serving as counsel to 5 natural resources committees of the Virginia legislature. So we're lucky to have her today. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Mark. My job is to keep the panel moving so that you all have opportunities to ask questions. That's really what we're all about here today. So each of our speakers is just going to speak very briefly. The purpose of this particular panel is to speak about the Weatherization Program, which is a $94 million program. We're getting almost 40 million of that in Virginia that we talked about today. Also, the Energy Retrofit and Green Investments Program, which is a program of the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development, and also another HUD program, the Public Housing Capital Fund. These are both available to providers of public housing, that's housing authorities and private providers. We're actually going to focus mostly on the Weatherization Program today, but if you have questions about these other 2 programs, we're going to help you figure out how to get the answers. What I'm going to do with regard to the panel is just do a quick introduction of everybody first so that they can just move through their remarks very quickly without me having to stop and introduce each one. And what we're going to do is we're going to start at the federal level with the 8,000-foot view of the program, and then we're going to move to the state level and then hear from some of the local providers. Our first speaker is Molly Lunn. She is the communications lead for weatherization and intergovernmental programs at the Department of Energy. She was a presidential management fellow at the Department of Housing and Urban Development before that. Then we're going to hear from Bill Shelton, who is the director of the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. He's been in this field for 30 years. 12 of those have been as director of that department, and that is the state agency that delivers the weatherization funds in Virginia, and he was very happy to hear that announcement today from Secretary Poneman. Then we're going to hear from Edith Jones, who is with the Southeastern Tidewater Opportunity Project. That is a community action agency that actually delivers weatherization services. She has been with that organization for 43 years, and they have been doing weatherization since 1979. So she's certainly an expert that we're all going to benefit from hearing from. It's only one of the services that agency provides, actually, and it is one of the largest providers in the state, and of course it serves Hampton Roads, so that's why it's important to hear from Ms. Jones. Lars Peterson then is with Rebuilding Together, which is a national advocacy organization that has affiliates around the country, 14 of which I believe are in Virginia, that also deliver these services, and they can partner to deliver other services at the same time. He has been with the group for 2 years. Prior to that, he was a government relations professional for the Food Marketing Institute, and he has also worked for Senator Dick Lugar of Indiana. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Molly Lunn, who's going to start us off.
Morning, everyone. I want to extend a big thank you to Senator Warner and President Harvey for hosting this event. It's very exciting to be here. I'm honored to be invited and to be speaking with all of you. As Deputy Secretary Poneman said, you know, weatherization is really a national priority, and it's an exciting time to be involved with the Department of Energy. Specifically, I'm really going to speak to the nuts and bolts of the program. You know, he's sort of talked the big picture, and now I'll kind of give you all the details on how the program works, the Weatherization Assistance Program. The Weatherization Assistance Program was given $5 billion under the Recovery Act, which is an increase from about $227 million in 2008. So it's a pretty significant bump for us. The $5 billion is distributed via formula grants. So the grants are given out to the 56 states and territories and 2 Indian tribes. So it's 58 grantees total. And as Deputy Secretary said, there will be $94 million going to Virginia total. The way it works is grantees, the states, submitted applications in May and received their first 10% on an earlier application, just as sort of we'd like the money application that came in March. And then the formal application came in May. And now this additional 40% is being awarded today, which is very exciting. After the state has proven that the funds have been implemented well, responsibly, the next 50% will eventually go out. There are 3 important changes to understand about the program. So the program overall, the purpose of it is to reduce the costs of low-income residents by weatherizing homes, by improving the energy efficiency of their homes. The money is distributed to the states, and then it goes out to local agencies who perform the work on the homes. The way the program has changed under the Recovery Act is that the income eligibility level has been raised. So now it used to be 150% of the federal poverty level, and now it's 200%. There's a second point that's important to know. That's that the assistance level for each unit has gone from $2,500 to $6,500. So that means that on average, the grantees, states, can spend up to $6,500 on a home to improve its energy efficiency. And then the most exciting piece for us is that training and technical assistance set aside out of the lump sum. So out of the $5 billion, 20% will be set aside for job training and technical assistance. So that's $1 billion that'll be going just to job training and technical assistance. And it's an important piece for us because the capacity to do what we'd like to do, to weatherize, the president has said he wants to weatherize 1 million homes a year. Well, that's an excellent goal. We want to get there too. But right now we weatherize about 100,000 homes a year. So to do that, we're going to need a much bigger, worker base. So the training dollars are really going to be important. $1 billion puts us at the single largest job training program across the federal government. And it's going to take a lot of work, as Deputy Secretary Poneman said. It's going to take coordination. We're working with the Department of Labor. We're also working with HUD and a number of other federal agencies to make sure that this is done well, that it's done safely and in a healthy way. Prior to being at the Department of Energy, I was at the Housing and Urban Development and the Office of Healthy Homes there. So it's really important that the homes are energy efficient, but that it's also a safe and healthy environment for the inhabitants. So I think from there, I'll probably just turn it over to Lars. Sorry, back to Nikki. We have the money, but they're the ones who are going to really be doing the work with you all. So I'm excited to be here and looking forward to your questions.
Thanks very much, Molly. Next, we're going to hear from Bill Shelton.
Thank you, Nikki, and thank you, Molly, especially to Secretary Poneman for the message this morning. We've been poised. We worked very closely with 22 providers of weatherization services, and all have been on standby waiting to launch. And Edith will talk about that in a minute, I'm sure. But we are prepared. We have been working with all of our providers to ramp up, to increase their capacity to deliver what is admittedly a very large increase in scope of the amount of work that we need to do. This is a fantastic program, one we've administered for a number of years. It is a marriage of an affordable housing, a safe and decent housing strategy with the national policy on energy. And it's not insignificant to note that nationally the average savings and individual home energy cost is over 30% per household. And if you start thinking about, what does that mean, the ramifications for many of the issues have been talked about, it means less dependence on foreign oil, it means less dependence on other forms of energy, but it also means very much for very low-income individuals the ability to afford decent and safe housing, which makes it a great objective and one which we are very excited to be working on. We also applaud the changes in the Act and what it means in terms of everyday families in Virginia. When we move from 150% of poverty to 200% of poverty, those are kind of abstract numbers, but that means a 54% increase in the number of households in Virginia that now qualify. One of the issues we frequently found, we had folks who you may very well acknowledge would be very low income, struggling to make ends meet, but yet we're just above that threshold for income eligibility. So it made it very difficult. So this slight increase, 50% more on the poverty line to 200% of poverty is a very significant change, and the increase up to $6,500 per unit means that you now can address more of those significant issues in a home and make more homes qualify. How that program operates, and I don't want to steal Edith's thunder, but typically you go in on the front end and do an energy audit of the home to determine what savings could you anticipate, and if you cannot find an income eligible family with reasonable level of energy savings, you do not address that house. And if you couldn't spend more than a certain amount of money, sometimes you have to walk away from a property that otherwise would have been eligible and would have been a priority. The training and educational opportunities are significant. Virginia is blessed that we have one of 10 national training centers around weatherization. That is the New River Center for Energy Research and Training out in the community of Christiansburg, Virginia, but it serves not only all of Virginia, but the Mid-Atlantic region, and trains a large number of providers, both in how to do energy audits and doing weatherization type activities. So those are very significant activities. I would mention that we recognize the opportunities, and I'm going to talk about a couple of these that this program and the increase in resources brings. One of those that both Senator Warner and Secretary Poneman mentioned was the opportunity for green jobs, a major interest, broad-based, not just in the weatherization program, but across many different disciplines. We are working very closely with the Virginia Community College system, looking at ways to use that network, which has a workforce training mission already, to train more individuals in green jobs and weatherization techniques. No news to any of y'all, but the construction industry is struggling right now. There's been a downturn, and home building is at pretty much an all-time low in recent history. There are many out of work or utilized contractors that are looking for ways to participate and grow back into a more robust economy. Not just in weatherization, but the whole energy efficiency arena offers new opportunities, and we believe that by working across both the INSART, the training center, and Christiansburg and the community college system, we can start to lay the groundwork for skill building, if you will, both in terms of those who will be assessing properties and deciding what would be the most impactful energy improvements to those which who might be carrying out those activities in terms of construction. A couple of other opportunities. One, historically, given the limited amount of funds, we have not focused very often on the arena of multifamily housing. It's been predominantly a single-family program historically, and we believe with the increased resources, there are new opportunities. This is not just an individual living in a single-family home, but in all types of housing, energy costs are a significant issue, and we believe that we need to look very closely especially at affordable housing for low and moderate income individuals, and how we can bring down the energy consumption even in multifamily housing. And then there are opportunities to grow businesses. There are already folks who are interested in, well, how do I get into the business of doing energy audits? One of the things that may be mentioned in a later panel, but there's a growing interest in the building codes to to increase the energy efficiency in new construction, and one of the things that's being considered is requiring more home testing, and so these types of jobs are going to be there, and there'll be business opportunities. Briefly, before I turn it over to Edith, the other two programs that were mentioned, I just want to touch on briefly. They're not through the Department of Energy, although there is a memorandum of agreement and a strong partnership with the Department of Housing and Urban Development. One is targeted at what we would in the field call assisted housing, primarily programs like housing for the elderly, housing for the disabled, which are all means tested but provide some type of rent subsidy. HUD has a $250 million competitive program that's on the street right now. Applications were due in or could be submitted as early as June the 15th. I think it's a rolling application, but they'll be considering applications from owners of properties both in Virginia and across the country. This is not state by state, it's a national competition direct to HUD. So if you're an affordable housing provider, you will want to look very closely and work with the Office of Affordable Housing Programs within HUD on those programs. And then another type of affordable housing, that being public housing, there was a $4 billion allocation through HUD, through its Office of Public and Indian Housing, to go for directly modernization and energy efficiency in public housing. $3 billion of that amount has already been distributed by formula, and some 29 housing authorities in Virginia have already been notified of their allocations. And then there's an additional $1 billion that's being awarded on a competitive basis, and those applications, again, are on a rolling basis to HUD, and will unfold over the next several months. So lots of opportunities. You need to look at where you can grow, both deal with affordable housing issues, but grow job opportunities, and look at the interconnections that have been referenced by the keynote speakers this morning. Thank you for letting me be with you today, and look forward to hearing your questions.
Thank you, Bill. Now we'll hear from Edith. Thank you.
Good morning. And yes, Bill, you did steal some of my thunder, but that's not unusual. I'm Edith Jones, and I'm with the Community Action Agency, and we are the programs one of 26 in the Commonwealth who receive funds from Bill's office to actually do the work. So I'd like to just share a few minutes with you, telling you a little bit about how we do that. We serve the STOP organization. We serve the 6 cities and 2 counties that make up Hampton Roads. And for weatherization services, we also provide those in the city of Hampton. We at STOP provide a myriad of programs, everything from early childhood education, Head Start, child care centers for working parents, job training, programs for ex-offenders, as well as job keeping programs. We also are fortunate in that we probably operate one of the largest weatherization programs in the state of Virginia. And that's what I would like to talk to you about a little bit today. I would like to bring to your attention, I guess, a comparison. We're talking about the stimulus funds and what it has done. And Bill will attest to the fact that we have been struggling for years in trying to meet all the needs of people who would need weatherization services. He spoke to you about the increase in eligibility that's opened up a whole nother level of people who could benefit from the services. But I'd just like to tell you a little bit about how the stimulus money has impacted our community. The 6 months of comparison I'd like to pull is January of '08 through June of '08, from January '09 to present. And if you would bear with me, I'd just like to share these statistics with you. In '08, our agency completed 145 homes. We weatherized that during the course of that 6 months, and it impacted 367 residents. Between January of '09 and June 30, we completed 246 homes, which impacted 537 residents. On a monthly basis, we were completing 19 homes. That meant we were weatherizing 19 homes. In that same period in '09, we're now averaging 53 homes a month. So you can see, the difference. Let's talk about money. And I was certainly glad to hear the release of the dollars today. I've been talking to Bill about that. But the first 6 months of last year, we spent $486,000 in doing the weatherization work. The first 6 months of this year, we spent over $992,000. Again, it's doubling almost. I would like to say, even as we talk about employment opportunities, our staff consisted up until the stimulus money came into effect. We had 11 employees in order to do this work. Currently, we have 23 employees, and we have relationships and working with approximately 79 vendors throughout the community. So the dollars are being spread around. Also, as I said, we are funded primarily from DHCD, Bill Shop. We also have relationships with the 2 utility companies in our community, Virginia Natural Gas and Dominion Virginia Power. They also partner with us to achieve weatherization services for their clients. The process we use is that we accept applications at our main office as well as all of our 6 satellite offices. And in Hampton, we utilize our sister agency, Office of Human Affairs, where we take applications 5 days a week for people who are eligible. Once we get the application, the client is determined eligible based on 2 areas: number in the family and the number of the annual income, of the family. I think Bill alluded to that. With the increase we are receiving right now, for 1 in the family, the annual income is $30,000 and some. If you have 4 in the family, you can now make as much as $58,000. That is a significant increase in what we've been able to do. But we go into a home that's eligible and we conduct an energy audit using the blower door technique. And that technique will allow us to see where the air leakages are and what we need to do in order to make that home energy efficient. And we will send out our team of trained workers to do that. Once it is done, one of the things that we are very happy about, we will take that bill that we looked at when we took application from that client, and we'll go back in 60 days and look at their bill then, and again at 90 days, and again at 120 days, so that the resident can actually see the savings that they're experiencing. And we certainly like to make the distinction with our residents that we are not doing home rehabilitation. We're doing home weatherization. And oftentimes, that's a concept that you have to convince people of because they want to see you come in and do the aesthetics. We do what saves energy. We do what saves on the utility bill. As we move forward, we know that the 2006 census projection tell us in Tidewater there are about 99,000 homes that would be eligible for weatherization based upon the criteria that I talked about. And the STOP organization anticipates doing at least 1,100 to 1,400 of those homes. So even though as we talk and we meet and we talk about the good fortune Virginia has with all the money and the high bar to reach all of these homes, we have an aggressive plan to do just that. And Bill, we will not only have the employment opportunities, we will do some of the training. This has been an opportunity for us to open the doors for training, for people to bring them in and train them in weatherization. I guess the last thing I would like to say before I turn it over is that getting the word out probably has been something that everybody wants to know. How do you get the word out? Who knows? How do they know? We do everything from put flyers out. We do door-to-door canvassing. Certainly we go to community centers, senior citizens centers. We get printouts from the local Department of Social Services for people who receive heating and cooling assistance. And we also use our own flyers. Currently, we're doing a spot. Some of you in the area may have seen it on TV. We're using all the local TVs right now to just say to the community, if you think you're eligible, we have a weatherization program, contact us. And certainly we're getting a lot of responses. We have high hopes for the program, and we know that we're gonna provide this necessary service to quite a few people in the upcoming year. Thank you. You may see some of our flyers outside, but if you don't, the word is out. It's the STOP organization. Anybody that needs weatherization in this area, have them contact us.
Thanks very much, Edith. Our last speaker on this panel before we take questions is Lars Peterson from Rebuilding Together.
Good morning, everyone. Rebuilding Together is a national organization. It's a nonprofit Well, let me clarify that. It's a 501c3 because many of our supporters today who are corporations seem to be nonprofit too. But as a 501c3, we specialize in preserving home ownership by rehabbing, repairing the homes of low-income homeowners. They have to qualify through HUD to be a low-income homeowner. We have 200 affiliates around the country, 14 here in Virginia. We do approximately 10,000 houses a year around the country, houses and community centers. We rely on a team of over 200,000 skilled and unskilled volunteers, the help of corporate sponsors and donated materials, and we basically leverage, for every dollar of contribution, we get about $3 of market value out of that. And last year, we can account for about $100 million in actual market value of the improvements that we've made to people's homes so that they can stay in their homes. Just to give you a little bit of an example, for example, you may have been in a Sears store lately. They're a major supporter for our veterans housing program. We help veterans, especially injured ones coming home from Afghanistan and Iraq. And if you shopped in Sears over the holidays, you had an opportunity to help. Also, the American Petroleum Institute is more directly involved in our energy efficiency program. We've been doing weatherization, basically, whatever you want to call it, for the last 30 years, putting on new roofs, putting in new windows, new doors, that kind of thing. But now we call it greenhousing. And the API has been very helpful in programs. We've done over 100 programs with them, projects around the country. They've given us about $680,000, and which has been leveraged into 3 times that much. But the point is that we are what Molly said. We're the worker base, if you will, for what has to happen here. We're part of the worker base, as all these massively wonderful extra resources are being provided. We all have to ramp up in order to get the job done. And my message today is that we like to partner with Edith and with Bill. And in fact, I've talked to Bill about working to see if we can bring our 14 Virginia affiliates together to help him. And as an example, our affiliate in Lynchburg, Virginia, already has a memorandum of understanding, a relationship with the Lynchburg Community Action Program, whereby they share clients, they share referrals. Sometimes one can do one project, the other can't. Sometimes the pure weatherization work still needs a new roof or something that we can do that they can't do, and vice versa. So we see it as an opportunity to stretch everyone's dollars to not only serve more people, but to get the job done and to stretch our resources in a more effective way. I guess I'll just say that if you want to learn more about us, I think one of the great things about this meeting here today, it's an opportunity for us all to network and learn more about the resources that are around us and how we can share our expertise and actually, 1 + 1 make it 3. And so if you want to visit us on our website, it's www.rebuildingtogether.org. And we collaborate a great deal with Habitat for Humanity. And I spoke with my friends, and they couldn't be here today, but they'd be happy for me to mention that go to habitatvirginia.org, and there's a network there too of practitioners that can help get the word out and also help get the job done so we can serve more low-income homeowners to make their homes energy efficient.
Thank you, Lars. Now we have an opportunity for the audience to ask questions. So it's a big group, but I think we can probably do this in a pretty orderly fashion. So what folks have questions for the experts that we have on our panel here today? Ma'am?
Hello. My question is for Mr. Bill Shelton. How do you anticipate that the weatherization improvements are going to affect the resale cost of the housing that you'll be improving?
Excellent question. you know, most of us, I don't know the process that you go through, but when you start to look at buying a house, one of the first things that most people do is check out, you know, both the condition of the house, but what the carrying cost of that house is. And typically, one of the things they want to see is the energy bills. I think if you can document that that you have an energy efficient home that has low carrying cost for the new buyer, then that creates an increased marketability for that home. The obverse of that is, obviously, if it has high energy costs, it would be a negative for the home buyer. So I think that's the most important part. I think also that if I'm someone who has right at the margin on income, that is, you know, this typically isn't taken into account in underwriting, but as I'm assessing my ability to buy a home, I certainly would want to know, you know, what those energy costs were going to be, and that I would be affordable, because one of the things we've learned in the most recent foreclosure crisis is getting into a home and not realizing what it's going to cost you to stay in that home has very negative results.
Thank you. I see Glenn has taken the bull by the horn and actually gotten in line to ask a question, and that's a great idea. So thank you, Glenn, for doing that, and I encourage other folks to do that as well.
Thank you. This question is for Mrs. Jones and perhaps Mr. Shelton. From my understanding, by the way, very impressive numbers with regard to the increase in number of employees and the work created there. But it's my understanding that that increase, more than double, is actually related to increased appropriations from the last Congress, not the stimulus money. The stimulus money represents a much greater investment in terms of the Weatherization Program, and I'm wondering if you have any projections with regard to job creation associated with this new stimulus money that's coming out, which is significantly more than what the last Congress gave you, which was, I think, twice what the previous Congress had given you. Perhaps either of you could answer that?
Well, certainly I can answer from our perspective. It is a carryover. It's a mixture of dollars, very true. But I think the word was used, ramped up. A lot of this is our attempt to ramp up. We have not received the dollars, thanks to the Secretary, but that means we have gone on and done the work. We were assured that it were coming, that the dollars were coming. So the comparison that I made for you, a lot of that is on faith in terms of our reimbursement, but it was as a direct result of the stimulus dollars.
Do you expect any additional hires?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, we predict approximately 10 additional hirees in the next year.
If I can also add to that, the 10% ramp-up money went directly for increasing the employment at the weatherization agencies. That's the only place we could really do it, because the work has not been funded yet. And then so we did get a release to start spending part of the remainder of the 10 on weatherization activities, hence Edith's reference to increased work. And also under what was not mentioned, it is under the prior year in Virginia, Senator Warner referenced the LIHEAP program, the Low-Income Heating Housing Energy Assistance Program. We did receive a significant increase in that pool of funding, and so we were already ramping up as we speak. There will be significant job opportunities in our application, and I wish I'd read that number before I walked in here. I don't want to quote a misnumber. We did project the employment both in the organizations, but I think the part that we're really interested in is seeing where new employment opportunities can be created outside of just the organizations doing it, because there is a more pervasive need for people with these skills.
Thank you. This is going to be our last question in order to try to keep us on schedule, and I hope that folks will take advantage of the fact that our panelists will be here for the rest of the day, so you can ask them directly. Ma'am.
I'm Andrea McJimsey. I'm on the Board of Supervisors in Loudoun County, Virginia, and also Executive Director of the Climate Prosperity Project. And first of all, we're delighted that the weatherization dollars have been released, and look forward to helping our low-income residents. But coming from the richest county in America, I'm also mindful of the millions of homes that we could retrofit with private homeowner dollars. And I wonder if some of the folks on the panel could address what the opportunities are for what you're planning to do to stimulate that job creation and business growth.
Sure, that's an excellent question. I absolutely meant to talk a little bit about that as well. you know, it's wonderful to have dollars going to the Weatherization Assistance Program, and these dollars really can only be used for low-income housing. But if we want to, you know, weatherize 1 million homes a year, that should be everyone. That should be not just low-income, but middle-income and high-income residents. So we're hoping that we're going to move beyond just grant programs. We want to really encourage market transformation and encourage cities and counties to be looking towards using perhaps funds from a program I'm going to be speaking about later, the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program, and states to use their SEP dollars, their State Energy Program dollars, to really transform markets through loan programs and programs that will can do the weatherization work, but can do it in ways that will sustain the funds beyond just the grant period, because this has to be more than just the Recovery Act. You know, we're not going to always have $5 billion. So,
are you planning to kind of cross-pollinate those programs so we don't have, so we can get the synergies, like for the companies doing the retrofits? It doesn't really matter who owns a home as long as they're getting the work.
Right. When you say cross-pollinate, I mean, the funds are separate. They have to be used, you know, separately, obviously. But, I mean, we are certainly encouraging grantees to use their funds to do weatherization. It's, you know, just because there's the Weatherization Assistance Program and that focuses on low income, that doesn't mean that SEP dollars and block grant dollars can't be used for weatherization also.
And we will hear more about the State Energy Program during the next panel. We are going to take a short break now. How long, Mark? Let's be back here at 11:25. Thanks very much.